So the building will sit about 51 feet from the wetlands at its closest point. The parking area will sit about 37 feet from the wetlands at its closest point, and the grading will take place about 30 feet from the wetlands. So in all, it's about 17,000 square feet of alterations will take place within that buffer zone. We're not proposing any work within that 25-foot no disturb. So it's a little tough to see, but the dotted line again is the no disturb. So we're staying out of it. And then the dash line up here again is the 100-foot, so you can see where everything's sitting in there. So the addition will be serviced by municipal water, and there is an existing septic system located at the front of the building up here under the existing parking lot. So we're also proposing a stormwater system that'll consist of roof drains, deep sump catch basins, and a subsurface infiltration basin. And the infiltration basin will be right here. I'd propose a catch basin in here and also in this loading dock, which will be depressed. So the system has been designed to comply with the DEP stormwater standards as well as the town of Foxborough stormwater management bylaws. If I could go to sheet 7 of the site plan, you can see the erosion control for this project will consist of silt socks and silt sacks that will be installed prior to the start of construction. We're also proposing a stabilized construction entrance here at the end of the existing driveway. So this eastern driveway will provide access back to the proposed addition as well as the proposed parking area. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Okay.
What's the driveway made out of, or the parking lot? Is that pavers?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm proposing permeable pavers. That way, we make sure to hit our impervious coverage.
What's that?
The pictures
Oh, that's not.
someplace up.
No, that's just something that Google took.
What's the closest point to the parking
They were
lot?
constructing this.
35 feet?
So the closest point, it would be 37 feet, so I think it's from this corner right here down to the wetlands in the southeastern portion of the parcel. So I show essentially a rock wall right here to kind of catch the grades and keep me off that 25-foot no disturb.
Now, is the stone or concrete wall, is that going to be built from the inside rather than the outside?
Yeah, I can make sure so that way they're not pressing up against that 25-foot no disturb. We'll have them construct it, yes, from the inside.
Okay. I know we didn't have any problem with the flagging from prior, so there's no problems there. Any comments from the board? And have you heard from DEP yet, or still waiting for a file number?
Still waiting.
Okay.
There's not a whole lot of place to put snow in the wintertime, huh? It's a pretty tight lot.
Yeah, they're really maximizing everything they can out there.
Does the existing building already have a stormwater?
So there's an existing catch basin up here that's tied into the stormwater located out front in the street, but most of it, when I did the existing conditions, it either sheet flows towards Perry Drive or to either side or the rear of the parcel.
So you're gonna take all of the old and the new roof drainage and put it into the system in the back?
So I'm just taking the roof drainage from the proposed addition and the proposed parking area. So the proposed impervious area, I'm putting into that, that proposed subsurface infiltration basin out back there.
That basin seemed to be quite large for that, for just that addition roof.
Yeah, so I had to use, since the wetlands are right there, the groundwater is pretty close, so I did minimum 2 feet off of that. And I used, it's the Coltech, what are they called? It's a Coltech field drain, so they're low profile and it comes in more of a grade formation, so it's bigger section, so it looks larger.
Okay. All right. So you're pumping it from a converted septic tank? Is that, or?
Yeah, so you're seeing that correct. So, again, with the groundwater issue and me trying to get those elevations above the field, our client wants a loading dock at the back of this facility, so with that, like, my grades are essentially at the finished floor. So we need to do a depressed loading dock back there. So the loading dock has got to be sitting, or well, that area's got to be sitting lower than the invert into my field. So I need to pump up to the existing riser, which goes into a feeder tube, which will feed the field up there.
But that's a new chamber. You're not reusing an old septic system.
Oh, no, yeah, so this is all proposed, yes. So there's no existing tank or anything back there right now.
So just back to the snow storage, whatever melt you get is gonna get put into that Coltech, right?
The snow storage?
Yeah. Any melt you get.
Oh, yes. So I show the snow storage. So I didn't do it in this rear corner since I'm right on the 25-foot no disturbed. I tried to
Right.
keep it out of there.
Yep.
So essentially, I'm limited on the amount of snow storage back here. So I figured I could pile it right here. But again, I could handle up to 28 inches before anything gets removed off-site.
Right, but I mean, any melt, say if it's a hot, warm day, right, it's gonna melt. Some of the water is gonna run off that snow storage, right?
Yeah,
But it's gonna work its way into that Coltech system.
so I think a portion would, and then a portion would probably,
Make it go out the
yeah,
flared
just
end
sheet
over on
flow off the
side,
back.
yeah. Okay.
So basically, your snow storage area is pitched back into the parking area?
Yeah, so when I do the snow storage calculations, I do taking percent of compaction and then also mounding. So
Yeah.
essentially when you guys see when they plow, they're gonna plow it up into a mound away from the parking lot.
Is there a curbing
But the
along?
grade is pitched away from the
Yes,
park.
I saw a bit curbing somewhere.
That thin line along the stone?
Or did I not see that?
There's a question on curbing.
Is there curbing on the,
Yeah, so I show curbing, I show a bit berm curb around the whole proposed parking area. And then this portion over here is gonna be more of a retaining wall.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, here's the bid perm, yeah, okay. I knew I saw it there somewhere. Any other questions?
See if they want to do a sidewalk.
If you guys would like to go out there to do a site walk, just inspect the site, you guys can see the wetland line and just kind of see what the area looks like. We could also plan that.
I've crawled through that from the other direction.
It's no fun. Yeah.
Is it gnarly? Yeah.
It's very disturbed. It's an old farm. It's all torn up back there.
Yeah. I don't think I have to go out again. You need a continuation though, because no file number, so.
We'd like a continuation till the end of August. I talked to Diane already about that. What date do we say?
Well, August 21st, but you're not going to planning till the 24th. So do you want to do that, or you want to move it to September?
Yeah, we should push it to September because we want to wait till after planning.
Yeah, so that would be September 25th. We talked about the end of September. Because you weren't going to be here on the 11th.
Yeah, but Cam can do that. So we could do the 11th.
What are you going through? Site plan or
So we
special
don't,
permit?
I'm sorry?
With planning, what do you,
So we have to go for site plan
Site plan.
approval, and we can't get before them until August,
24th. They're meeting
24th.
August 24th, and then they'd be meeting September 14th.
yeah.
okay.
But, you know, we don't have their comments back from the consultant yet, and.
But you've already done one meeting with them already, right?
No,
No? They're
no,
usually like 2 meetings though, right?
I know, it's,
It was supposed to be in July, but
yeah,
in
something,
error, it wasn't sent to the newspaper.
oh, yeah, something happened. Wasn't my fault.
Wasn't mine either.
Okay, that stuff happens.
It looks like the mics are on. Mr. Becker, we on?
We're back.
We're back, we're on air.
Okay.
Just for those who are watching or whatever from home, we're back. Technical difficulties have been solved, and the Foxborough Conservation Commission meeting is in progress.
And being recorded.
And we're being recorded. We've met all the requirements of the necessary for the acts of 2021 for Zoom meetings, et cetera. Anything else I need to add to that, Diana? Okay, thank you.
They want to continue to September 11th.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to continue the September 11th meeting.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None?
And if anybody wants to do a site visit, just reach out to you?
Yep.
Okay.
And if you want some things marked, we'll get them marked for you if you want to do the sidewalk.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have we heard from Jim? Is he? Oh. Mr. DeVellis.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
You want to introduce yourself and tell us what you're doing?
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Jim DeVellis. I'm a professional civil engineer with DeVellis Serene, and I am representing 225 Foxborough Boulevard Realty Corporation. I think, Mr. Chairman, you may recall, I'm not sure if the other members were on back then, but in 2014.
Can you get a little bit closer to the mic,
Or turn it up.
Oh, sure. Yep.
please?
Sorry. A little better?
A little bit better, thank you.
Okay. So 225 Foxborough Boulevard is a small office building, and they had a new tenant back in 2014, and they wanted to restructure the parking to add some handicap spaces at their front door and a few more spaces. So because we were within 100 feet of the wetlands and 200 feet of the river, we filed a full notice of intent and received an order of conditions back in 2014, and I think it was January of 2015. Project was very successful. I did the construction observations, and then basically they just never came back for the certificate of compliance. So they contacted me a few weeks ago and asked for me to present the certificate of compliance request. So in your packet, you should have a letter with the WPA 8A forms, the filing check. The applicant had provided a summary of how they had met all the operation and maintenance control requirements. They had all the drains cleaned by a contractor, and that invoice is in there, and there was an as-built submitted as well. So we're here tonight just to ask for acceptance of the certificate of compliance for that project.
For a what? Can you repeat that?
certificate of compliance for 225 Foxborough Boulevard for the improvements that were done in 2015.
Okay, I think, has Jane been out there to look at this? Or you-
I talked to her about it, and then she went on vacation.
Yeah, okay.
And then when I followed up, I got an email back to contact Diana, so I spoke to Diana about it. And so I don't know if Jane had gone out there or not, to
Okay,
be honest with you.
I don't know if she did or not.
okay. All right,
I don't see anything in the report.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
we bumped it to the.
do you have the certificate printed, or?
It should be on the top of the folder.
Okay. I've got two folders here. Let me go through them. Okay, I do not see.
Up front. Flip this over.
Oh, I opened it up to read the, okay. Thank you. Okay. All right. Yeah, okay. All right. All right, recording confirmation, where is this? I do not see a signature page. Oh, okay, here we go. Do I make a motion subject to final approval by Jane? Because it's a site inspection was made in the presence, so we need that.
All right. Jim, we still need Jane to get out there and just do a site inspection to confirm. But we can vote.
And sign it, and soon as she does the inspection, it'll be all set.
Okay, is she back this week, do you know?
Back next Monday.
Next Monday? Okay, that should be fine. I appreciate that, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So,
Make that motion.
yeah,
Second?
discussion? All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? None.
Okay, thank you all, I appreciate it. Nice seeing you guys all.
Thank you.
More than welcome,
Thank you.
Jim. I gotta sneak out for a moment, because my wife called, and I don't know what it's all about.
It didn't go that way. And then usually they get it first. We're special.
All right, we have an enforcement order for 29 Baker Street. Mr. Lord, do you want to I know you received the order, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say that if we held your feet to all of this, nothing would get done. Is that pretty much correct?
I mean, I'm really just here. For the record, my name is Bill Lord, 29 Baker Street, and good evening to the commission and the chair. I'm just here to talk to you today about, one more chance to plead my case to you.
Okay. I know I've been looking at this. I've talked to Paige. I know you talked to Paige Duncan. And I've talked to my, quote, expert over here. I think what we could do is revise this completely, quite frankly. If you can get the wetlands flagged by a professional, get a plot plan and scale it off some way so that you can show where the wetlands are. Give it,
Where the wetlands were.
well, they don't change. They're where they were. They won't,
Some of them are buried too.
well, that's what we've got to find out, exactly where everything was. Get it on a plot plan, get a 25-foot no disturb buffer marked on it, and then talk about the restoration within the 25-foot buffer. I think I mentioned it at our last meeting that I thought some of this was a little bit much for a homeowner. So can you work with us and do something like that?
Yes, I can work with you. May I?
Sure.
Okay. So I have a little statement that I prepared for the group, and basically my guiding theme throughout this process has been my commitment to improve my home and in turn improve Foxborough. My approach has been grounded in the principles of preservation and conservation. The theories that I'm using are delved into the history and architecture and design of my home, using the knowledge to inform my preservation efforts. I have adopted permaculture landscape design, fostering a self-sustaining ecosystem right in my backyard. I'm in the process of creating a nutrient-rich raised beds and planting a wildflower meadow to provide a spot for our local pollinators. My efforts are not in contradiction, but in alignment with the broader goals of this commission and the town of Foxborough. I'm committed to preserving our past, sustaining our future, and contributing to the vitality of the town. I respectfully request that you reconsider this order, as we discussed. I firmly believe that my actions guided by profound respect for our environment, our heritage, and fall outside the jurisdiction of the Wetlands Protection Act. And here's why. And I could show you. I have a restoration plan prepared for the commission to review. The swale is primarily for managing stormwater runoff from Baker Street and is possibly from adjacent lands. The swale connects to a culvert and then connects to a drainage line under Railroad Ave, which eventually discharges to the Spark Arrestor ditch adjacent to the CSX train line. The swale is located upgradient of wetland areas. It's a linear swale, and it does not meet the definition. And again, I'm not a civil engineer. I'm not a wetland scientist, but I do have a computer and I can, review the law. So bear with me. I'm not trying to overstep my keyboard warriorness. It does not meet the definition of a stream as defined in the CMR 310. The linear drainage swale is a man-made. It's approximately 4 feet wide, about 130 feet long. I explained in our last meeting that there's been persistent issues. This at least to date back to the 70s. There's a Foxborough Reporter article that relates to the fact that there is water that does collect down there, and that the owner at that time did address it to the Board of Selectmen. Because it's a man-made ditch and it does not meet the definition for land subject to flooding. Given this information, the swale is primarily used as a man-made stormwater management feature. It doesn't meet the definition of a stream or an isolated land subject to flooding, and it might not be under the jurisdiction of the Wetlands Protection Act. And so that's basically what I'm hoping that I was able to communicate, and then I've got a presentation to show you kind of the overlay of
Okay.
what I've got. Okay, all right, there we go. So right here, so this is from the newly updated, really cool Massachusetts GIS and assessors website that we have here for Foxborough. In the center here, with the outline in yellow, is my tax assessor parcel. Down here, you've got the key. I've turned on the the wetlands, hydrology, and Title V setback areas right here.
Okay,
So you can see potentially where most likely wetlands are located in the town of Foxborough. Here's your scale up here. Based on, a rough estimate here, there's, unlikely a wetland area within 1,000 feet of this parcel. Here is my lot on Baker Street. Here's Railroad Ave. I've put on what I've left behind here. You can see some of the damaged trees that were there prior to that were dying that I removed. Here are the remaining trees. Here's the drainage ditch along Railroad Ave. Here's the 2 culvert pipes that drain into the spark arrestor ditch on the east side of Railroad Ave. Here's a zoomed in 1 and 25 foot zoom of the current existing conditions. Again, here's the swale. Here's the access road. Here's the 2 drainage ditches, culvert pipes that drain underneath the Railroad Ave. And then here's my restoration plan with a grassy field here, and then a wetlands meadow here, 2 willow trees, a hugelkultur raised bed with with some screening bushes on the east side of the lot bordering on Railroad Ave. Sort of a linear a slice looking at it as the elevation goes. This is the tree from the previous slide. The ground slopes down into the wildflower meadow. Here you've got your raised bed hugelkultur with the with a willow tree on top, which goes into the swale, which then connects to the pipe that flows underneath Railroad Ave and into the spark arrestor ditch on the eastern side of Railroad Ave. What are your questions so far?
I'm impressed.
Thank you.
You've done a lot of work.
Yeah. Mr. Bodie, I spent a lot of time doing my due diligence to make sure that I wasn't in violation of the Wetland Protections Act.
Any other comments from the board?
Well, just to keep in mind, I appreciate the due diligence you've done. You're considering, though, that there's a local bylaw that is more stringent in some ways than what the state act requires, right?
I understand.
And those interests that the state act protects, as well as those resource areas that the state act is protecting. So, there's more than just simply the state act and what it requires. So when we're looking at your case, we're dealing with both, all right?
I understand.
So I love, the steps you've taken here. I think the chair was trying to get an idea as to, so we could have something to work off of to start with, and trying to simplify this and do the least amount of work to get our hands around, and I think most cost effective as well, for a homeowner who's been issued an enforcement order. I still think it makes sense to get an understanding of what's on the ground. And I think that's what the chair was trying to do here, and was offering that to you as a way move forward, at least take a step together to move forward to try to resolve this enforcement. I love all these ideas, and, you know, maybe this is where we end up. But I think the idea of at least getting an idea, getting an understanding of the where things are on the ground, whether it's a plot plan, which is the simplest way of showing, you know, use your mortgage plot plan, show where the potential delineation of what may be not state protected, but be local protected resource areas, wetland resource areas, and know where that 25 no-touch extends from those. So then we can have a follow-up discussion. Maybe you're here next meeting. We can talk more about what your thoughts are, and maybe we'll just go with what that is that you've proposed.
Yeah, Mr. Marsh, I understand what you're saying. I mean, you're looking for the three hydric soils, the plant, water-loving plants, and the presence of water. I did reach out to a wetland scientist. He is so much that I don't have time for it, and he returned my money. I have then nominated another name, which is Pear Corporation.
Sure.
Based on your discussion,
Yep.
it sounds like the direction is I need to reach out with them, and
We just need some verification. I mean, this looks very good as far as I'm concerned. But again, I'm not a scientist either. So we've got to get that line established. And once we have that, then that's where we can really work from.
okay.
And the scientists, they just use an auger, and they will penetrate the fill down to the soils, the hydraulic soils, and they can determine, you know, how far down they are versus the fill. And then where is that old wetlands line based on the resources? Don't forget, you could have a wetlands without having a stream or a body of water. Because if the water table is high enough, it starts seeping out, it'll produce its own environment. And that's one of the reasons why you have a lot of ash trees down there.
Mr. Opaka, I definitely thought that, and I looked at the isolated land subject to flooding. That definition in the state law is basically a quarter-acre foot with an average depth of 6 inches. That's the equivalent of 3 in-ground swimming pools, or 81,500 gallons worth of water, to be considered something under the jurisdiction of the Wetlands Protection Act.
But
We still need to understand, work with you on what was altered, the resource area, and then come up with this fine plan. Or we need to have that understanding because we weren't there when it happened. But there is knowledge that there were wetland plants there that occupied that area, associated with the swale, associated with the growth. As time goes on, that swale fills up, and it just lets the water go out even slower because it's building up on that corner.
I completely understand what you're saying, Mr. Opaga. After 5 decades of not being maintained, this man-made drainage swale has definitely accumulated all sorts of things.
Yep.
So I can understand that there could be the presence. I mean, there was a similar issue that this board weighed in on with Walnut Street, right on for the project for the new housing authority project. I'm not going to say things are the same or similar here. We all know that they're not, but there was a like situation where you had a non-jurisdictional drainage swale that was presented to you during that meeting. I believe this kind of fits the same characteristics. It did have some of the plants that are associated with being wetlands in it, but it was deemed that it was not jurisdictional.
The swale wasn't, but I believe the wetlands were still within our jurisdiction on that situation. So we're just trying to define where the wetlands are.
Yes, sir.
Which would be the soil samples, both in the ditch and outside the ditch. That's all. And once we know nobody knows where it is. And once we know where it is, then we can hopefully just move forward with.
The only question I have is if this potentially is not in your jurisdiction, how are you able to find out what soil is there?
There's reason to believe from our conservation manager that it is within our jurisdiction. So we're just trying to determine whether it is or not. We could be wrong, but
I understand.
given that we've seen wetland plants there before, we want to just determine for sure what the soil conditions are.
Understand. So when I was looking at your process, when we start this, the second step is, hey, we've got, first is, hey, we've got a violation. Next step is, do we determine jurisdiction? Did we determine jurisdiction?
I think we did with when Jane went out there, our agent went out there, she determined that within her knowledge of it, that there was a violation, or else you wouldn't be here tonight, quite frankly. Because she's the one that went out, evaluated the situation, and ordered the cease and desist.
She makes the call for us to review.
Yeah, thank you. And so when you follow the process, it goes to an enforcement or a restoration order. And so far, I've done the silt fencing, I've presented everything, I've given you all the information I have. We went right to the enforcement order, which is generally, it says here that's for the most severe or egregious instances, or we can go to step 9, which is a restoration order. And that's where I'm here to talk about. It's more or less, excuse me, following my plan, my original restoration plan.
So the commission, once we make a decision that there's a violation, and that's what our agent went out and she looked at your site and told us that we have jurisdiction and there's been a violation because work has been done and it wasn't permitted, right?
That's incorrect. I mean, again, I understand that she's your agent and that, sir, that she, go ahead. Sorry.
So the next step is the commission makes a decision to issue an enforcement, right? And that's what we've done. If you think we're wrong and we don't have jurisdiction, the burden's on you, the alleged violator, to show that we don't have jurisdiction. But we're trying to work with you to determine whether or not, or to the extent that there's resource areas out there that we have jurisdiction to protect. And the restoration ideas are great, but we don't have an understanding of the baseline. Where are those former resource areas so we can work in and around them with what you're proposing? To be honest, I don't want to go into how the process works because the commission has done what they're supposed to do here. And I think we're trying to work with you to the extent you're a homeowner. And I don't want you spending a whole lot of money and resources on something that can be resolved relatively cheap. But we just need a basic understanding of where these resources could be or were so that we can work then off that. All right? And it's in both parties' interests here to try to work together. And that's what I think, the chair tried to propose at the beginning. And that's what I'm trying to continue to reiterate.
So, yeah, Mr. Marsh, I've definitely worked with this commission from the beginning. I'm just pushing back a little here because I feel that we haven't established jurisdiction. There's a map that shows that we found several wetlands across this town, and that these are all much larger than the location that I've got right here.
Okay. You may be right. And the work that you did to determine whether this is not a wetland may be true. Right? But I just can't take your word because you're not an expert. You're not a consultant in this field to tell me otherwise.
You're absolutely right. I am my best advocate at this
right.
point.
And I appreciate what you're doing. It's great, and I do the same. If a commission told me that I had violated the state or the local bylaw, and now they were bringing enforcement against me. I think in this situation, look, we just need someone else to tell us what you're essentially telling us, and if that's the case, fine.
No, that's what earlier we discussed, that, a secondary wetland scientist. I spent the last 2 weeks getting very smart on, Commissioner's Enforcement Guide, the law. So I came fully prepared for this and prepared to hire a subsequent wetland scientist to see what their interest is in this project.
If you hire Pod, the wetland scientist knows all the soils and wetlands in Foxborough. She's been working.
They're cheaper consultants than PAR, too. If I can't give you one, but I could give you a list, right?
I've got a list of recommended, additionally from the previous company that I talked to.
Who can show up on your property, assess the conditions, give us a report, relatively cheap, and knowing the commission would know that, what that consultant's report says is true and accurate, right? So you don't need some large PAR company to do the work that someone else could do. Not that I'm saying that they don't do great work, but.
I understand.
They're local too.
What I'm really trying to tell you is, I'm not a, I'm not a builder. I'm not going to subdivide the lot like someone attempted to in 2016. I do recognize that maybe it's shocking to those who walk by that it's a change. It's under change. My house is also under change. But all of my efforts the theme here is I'm trying to improve Foxborough. I'm not trying to, destroy or, violate any laws.
We definitely appreciate, I do anyway, the effort that you're making towards, permaculture and creating a pollinator space, and that is all great, but we have to enforce the bylaw, and that means protecting all of the wetlands, even if your goal is to make it a better wetland than what it is, and we still need to do our due diligence, so.
I understand.
So I think that's probably where we sit at this point in time, is we need verification of where the wetlands actually are, and then we can work off of that. And if you find somebody that has the expertise to go against our agent and prove her wrong, we'll accept that as well, so.
Okay.
But she is our agent, she's our expert, and she makes the decision, and I'm not going to contradict her, so. I'm not that knowledgeable, so. My knowledge is letting the experts speak.
I understand. I'll take that wisdom.
Okay.
Right.
But I love what you've done so far.
Yeah.
But again, we just need that verification.
All right, thank you for your time.
Okay,
Well, I
thank you.
suggest, just one last thing. That at least give Jane, identify who you intend to use by the next meeting.
Jane and I have discussed the next scientist.
Okay,
So, yeah, that's fine. You guys talk about who you may want to use, but at least give us who it is that you've retained. I don't need to know that they've done the work. Just by the next meeting, let her know that you are under contract or you intend to retain that person, so that we know that this is it's moving along versus just sort of you two talking back and forth. And
As soon as we had our last meeting, I immediately called the
Great.
wetland scientist. I provided that contract to you. I'm going to do the same thing again.
Okay.
Except the reason why I did not come back before this meeting just now was the fact that that previous wetland scientist rejected this role.
Okay.
For whatever reason it could be.
okay. All right. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
For your
Thank you,
time.
Commissioner.
All right. Next agenda item. We have a new member to be suggested to the selectmen to appoint. Somebody want to start out with some comments? I will say, Peter has sent an email, since he could not be here. He has, I'm going to hold his recommendation off for now until I'll start out with you, Dave.
No, you have to.
Or do you want me to start on the other end here?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Rich?
They're both real strong candidates.
Yes, we cannot go wrong with either one, that's for sure.
It's, it was, I did watch the videos of the interviews. And, I don't know, kind of wanted to have both of them. But I'm not quite sure why, but Tanya kind of comes to my mind as far as the one that might have the time access to do it, but again, that's about it. I mean, there's not much difference between the two of them. They're both very good candidates for different reasons, but.
Yeah. Rebecca?
Yeah, I agree. I thought they were both really strong. I liked the, yeah, if we could get both, that would be great. I like the idea of the associate, I guess.
No.
That, like thinking if we were going to take on a full commissioner and an associate, which would I assign, which is kind of how I wrote, because I couldn't really decide between the two of them. So I think I also leaned just very, very slightly towards Tanya.
Okay.
I think maybe her background will just make the job a little easier for her.
Okay. All right.
I like the idea that with Jane, when she researches, because there is a possibility of associate, non-voting associate member, and basically may attend the commission meetings, but also will help out in the field or doing some, field management, if they're interested. And I think we should try to, whoever we don't select, have them be that
Okay.
non-voting
But
and
that,
available.
Yeah, but that's for the future, but for now, we need to select one of the two for recommendation to be, what?
I had Googled quickly, and when conservation commissions were established, they were established between 3 and 7 members.
Mm-hmm.
You have the max members, so you can't have any associate members.
Okay.
Oh, so
And I think you have to do it by your own bylaw too, right? Don't you have to select the amount?
Yeah, the bylaw,
If it-
as we have now, doesn't allow.
If it's gonna include members that are associate members, you have to have that.
It would have to be a town meeting vote.
Yeah,
And I don't know if you'd have to reduce the membership.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like
So-
zoning board has 5 members, 3 are voting, 2 are associates.
Yeah.
Planning board has 1 associate. Would have,
For the future, it's a great thing, if we wanted to go forward with that and get it approved, but, because it makes sense, and you have someone who's learning, they
And can-
watch fish
yeah, and can
meetings.
move in as-
Move right in if there's an opening.
A
That's
couple of
nothing
years
you
of
can
being an
do.
associate would have been helpful.
basically, that's nothing you can do right now. You can't.
No, we can't do it right now.
You can't
no,
Yeah,
declare
exactly.
one of
I
these an
still feel
associate
bad, yeah.
member. No.
yeah.
I would go with, just looking back and remembering the interviews, I think they were both great candidates, and, I recommend that Cindy, at some point, if there is an opening in the future, she reapplies. But I think Tanya was the stronger of the two.
Okay. And I will say that Peter also recommended Tanya,
Okay.
so,
I mean, I will say Cindy is I know her from the NRRC.
Yeah.
I mean, she makes things happen, she really does, so.
Yeah.
And I loved her focus on climate, because I think that knowledge is going to be super useful.
yes.
Yeah.
But again, I'll say, I think Tanya is a little bit more rounded and the fact that she's got a little broader background, so that would be my recommendation.
Was it negative? I think she has a law degree. Isn't that a negative?
Now, once in a while,
Can't
you
be
know,
perfect.
so, somebody want to make a motion?
Make a motion that we recommend to the select board Ms. Orlando as the appointment for the Conservation Commission.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? It's unanimous. Thank you. And I think that was all on the agenda.
Are we done, or can I address one issue on
Sure.
one of my favorite subjects? Jane had in her notes
Yes, so, yes,
discussions about the boat.
boat ramp.
Yeah.
Yes.
Boat Rock, and I think we're all in agreement, but I haven't heard back directly from Jane or from Chris. But the rocks at the end of the boat ramp are fine for the fire department. They can go right over it
Okay,
if necessary, so that doesn't bother them. So we still want to try and get the larger rock in that middle piece.
okay.
And I think the mystery is solved, who's moving the rock. It was our own department that was moving the rocks. So the fire department would have access, thinking that they did. But I did talk directly to the police department, and then they direct me to the fire chief, because he's the one that they have the boat, jurisdiction over the boat.
Okay.
I guess they manage that.
So have him talk to Mr. Kelleher and have him move it back.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, we were looking for financing or payment for the sign, the map of the Neponset.
Right.
I'm going to withdraw that.
Okay,
The Neponset committee is going to place one there, as they did on
Edwards
Kersey
Road.
and Edwards.
Okay, good.
In their charter as educating people on the health of the pond, and the reservoir,
Okay.
and all that. So
Very
it would be
good.
under the same premise, and that would alleviate, I think, some of the, especially with the shortage we have at the town hall.
Yeah, good.
All right?
Good news. Thank you.
Make a motion to close the meeting.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you, one and all.
Sorry, Dave.
And don't forget the 19th.